On this indie music channel, we've talked about a lot of different artists having a lot of different stories, and Mat Kearney, of course, has a very similar route that people have taken, but it's his music that has inspired a lot of people. And the way that he went about it is similar but different. I don't know, he's very hard to explain because even his start was interesting. I guess that's the word to describe it. Because he didn't start playing until he was a little older. In fact, it was around the time he was in university. He didn't even own a guitar. He actually started to use his roommate's guitar, and he did what pretty much a lot of us who have played guitar and music have done. He started to cover other people's music. But what's funny is he realized he wasn't very good at that. But rather than getting rid of music altogether, he actually just started to write his own music, and he wanted to make his own music. Then he even started to fuse spoken word and rap into his music as well. He started to play at local coffee shops. He started to make little bits of money. And then he met I would say his best friend at this point, but also his producer, his future music producer, around the same time. They started to make music together, but his friend was going to move to Nashville, Tennessee, and Matt says that he helped his friend actually pack up his trailer, put his mattress in the back of his truck, and he even said he was going to help him move, so he drove out to Nashville with him. When they got to Nashville, I guess like his friend didn't really have anywhere specific picked out to live. And when they finally did find an apartment, it was just this old busted up apartment with mice going all over, insects all over. And they didn't care. They simply just wanted to make and produce music. In fact, by the end of that summer, they had about 3 or 4 songs. So he actually called back home he's from Eugene, Oregon, and he decided to say, I'm not coming back. I'm staying here in Nashville. So, again, it's interesting, right? It's not like he came from, this ridiculously crazy background story or anything. But let's focus on the music because that's what I really wanted to talk about here. His major debut, which was actually his second album, was titled Nothing Left to Lose. His first album was called Bullet, and so he used a lot of that first album. He kind of re-recorded it as well. And the title track, I would say for Mat Kearney fans to this date, is one of, if not the biggest song that he's ever made yet. Nothing Left to Lose. This single has over 500,000 sales. The track on this album called All I Need was featured almost immediately on television shows, and he got big people to tour with. He started opening up for John Mayer, Sheryl Crow, Train, Mute Math, and yeah, he was just doing unbelievably well at this point. Nothing Left to Lose. If you haven't heard it, please listen to it. My favorite, honestly, from this album is Undeniable, which was the second album that was released. And what's interesting is during one of his concerts for the song All I Need, it was actually written based off of 2 of his friends from New Orleans and their story during Hurricane Katrina. So, you know what I mean? His songwriting was just so interesting. He just didn't typically follow the normal formula that most people did. In fact, a second song off of that album called Breathe In, Breathe Out was featured on Grey's Anatomy, his second song that was on that television show. So, almost immediately he's doing well. So how is he going to follow it up? Well, that's when he released the album City of Black and White, which was his third album, you could say. And the single Closer to Love was probably his number one hit, I would even say, to date. I know it's one of my favorite songs as well. But this is one of his most recognizable albums. It's sold over 87,000 copies, this album has, in the United States alone as well. Now, Fire and Rain is on this album too. And, a lot of people kind of wonder about the song Closer to Love. They wonder about what it means. And he has said in an interview with the magazine that it's about dealing with the difficulties of a tough world, dealing with the tough world that our friends are living in, and growing together, all of us growing together as we're just kind of dealing with everything. It's amazing to me, really, his focus on his material. And his other, I wouldn't say, well, his less popular songs, we'll say that, has been featured on television shows as well. Now, what's amazing, though, is he didn't get to go the typical route that I explain when I go through these videos. He didn't get on all these talk shows. He didn't perform on Saturday Night Live or anything like that. It's so kind of strange where it's like all these major television shows and him supporting these huge music acts came along, but he just never quite broke through. If anything, I almost guarantee you, if you played one of his, I'd say top 3 songs to someone, I guarantee you they probably would say, oh, I've heard that song before. I think I know what this song is. But they can never just immediately say, this is Mat Kearney. I know who he is, So I don't know what it is. He just never could get there, So his fourth album was called Young Love, which was released in 2011. One of his songs charted in the top 40 adult pop songs. And then, I guess sometime later in 2015, his album Just Kids was released. And he had a whole tour behind it. He toured with Need to Breathe after that. Crazy Talk was released in 2018. And that's sort of where he stands now. He released a shorter kind of LP after that as well. But the reason why I'm making this video is really, you just got to check him out. He has that spoken word alternative kind of music behind him. Sometimes he's kind of mixed in like hip hop beats as well. And I just really feel like he's never gotten a fair shot. So I know I have a small audience. He doesn't really have any drama behind him. He just makes music and he tours, and that's it. Please check out the album Just Kids. I highly recommend the entire thing. Listen to his hits. Closer to Love, I'd highly recommend. Runaway Car, Air I Breathe as well. And yeah, that's it for the Indie Music Podcast for this week. We talked about Mat Kearney, and I'll see you all next time.